got going on? Hey, welcome. Come on in. Come along. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story here. There's a few changes coming to my channel, and I've already had a few examples, but I'm going to be doing a heck of a lot more of them. I'm going to continue to do some rodeo and certainly some more equestrian-based sports, because I know y'all really like them, and so we'll continue to do some of that. But I have got two playlists that I have sort of neglected on my YouTube channel, and I am going to be developing some videos to put on those playlists. One of them I already have some original videos on. It's called Ranch Life. I've got some stuff that goes back to 2005 on that playlist, I believe. And I've got another one called Farm Life that I don't have any original videos for, except for this video. Now, if you have looked through my list of video playlists, you will notice that Dusty Reins stories does not mean that all the stories on my channel have been created by myself. And that's because there's an awful lot of good content on YouTube. And when I find something that kind of fits in that playlist, I go ahead and snip it in there so that you too will have an opportunity to discover some of the great content that has to do with farming or ranching that exists out there on other channels. I want to help promote them as well as grow my channel in a new way that's still in keeping with my tradition of trying to preserve our cultural heritage in West Texas and other places that I go to. But anyway, be sure to stay tuned, because, well, we're going to do some farming and ranching. Heck, or at least I am, and if you will join me, that would be great. I grew up on a cotton farm before I even started grade school, clear down in Pecos, Texas. It's not as far west as you can go in West Texas, but and not quite as far south as you can go in West Texas, but it's getting on down there. And now these days, of course, I'm located way up in the Texas Panhandle. But we lived on a cotton farm there outside of Pecos. So I have some farming knowledge and work experience. Like I say, it goes way back to the early 1950s. So I am headed to a farm that is located southwest of Tulia, Texas. There is a farmer who is based in the Nazareth area that farms that land over there, and I'm going to be meeting up with him, and we're going to talk about farm life, see what farm life is all about. Now imagine driving a machine that has at least 500 horsepower, four-wheel drive. What kind of trouble can you get into with that setup? Well, and then, well, if you know farmers and ranchers, if they're already working, the one thing you do not want to do is keep them from working. When they're busy, they are busy. You either pitch in and make a hand, try. If you can't do that, and you just want to jack your jaws like I do, then be prepared for interruptions, because there are going to be interruptions. And then too, the land manager has to keep his eye on and ears on what's happening at the moment. And you'll see where I don't do a very good job of paying attention to that. But I was going to say that once I arrived where this farmer was working, the cotton picking farmer was out stripping already in his field, and I didn't want to disturb him too much. The machine turned out to be pretty darn noisy. I didn't have an opportunity to get us both mic'd up for the ultimate sound quality. So you're going to have to put up with that. I'm going to run into situations like that where I am not fully prepared or just simply don't have the time to become prepared to make a real high quality video, if you know what I mean. So without further ado, here we go. Let's go pick some cotton.
Every now and then it'll throw you off a little bit. You got to bring it back in.
Every once in a while I'll see an ad on Google that has more to do with stripping corn.
Yeah, picking corn, yeah.
And features how, I guess, the spacing down here will change according to the stalk sizes.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like each individual row.
Yeah, right.
They're just going, good God.
Sometimes I think they try to think of something just for a wow factor, you know.
There you go, there you go.
It's kind of like vehicles. Let's figure out what else we can put on and bring Jack the price on it, you know.
I don't know. It's like the modern vehicles these days, there are, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars of stuff that has been added to our machines, which has made them so dang complicated.
Right.
You know?
Well, and that's these machines. Everything's electronic, and so it's hard to troubleshoot when you have a problem. And I think Deere does that by design. It ain't just Deere; it's all of them. It's automakers that they not only want to sell the machine, but they want to be able to own the service to the machine. You know?
Right.
I mean, it's monopolistic.
Been one company that makes sure that a lot of its parts traditionally do not interchange with other tractors.
Right.
Like hydraulic lines, one thing and another.
Well, the hydraulics, they're universal now.
Is that right? Okay.
Well, I say that. Deere still has the plug-ins, you can go from any piece of equipment to any tractor. They've had that for years. But, I can remember when I was a kid, every tractor company had their own hydraulic fittings. You know, Case was different from International, was different from John Deere, was different from Moline, you know.
Oh, is that right?
But now they've all got these Pioneer universal couplers where they all interchange.
I see. How are we doing up on our levels here?
Well, our accumulator's empty there now.
Passed by a round bale earlier. Let's see if I can find it on the screen. There it is, clear across the field. That's a pretty good sized bale.
It'll weigh about anywhere from 4,500 to 5,000 pounds.
Okay.
They'll have roughly 3 bales of lint cotton in one of those round bales.
Wow.
I'd say gin, it'd be about 1,500 pounds worth of cotton.
Okay, okay. Seems like it'd be much heavier than that.
Well, the seed that's in a bale would probably anywhere from 600 to 800 pounds per bale. So there's probably close to 2,000 pounds worth of seed in one of those round bales, and then the rest of it would be what they call trash, which is the birds or sticks or dirt or whatever.
Okay. Gotcha.
Roughly on this cotton, you're going to be looking at probably around 32% turnout, meaning what winds up in that round bale, about 32% of it will be lint, actual lint.
Oh, okay. Now, when we were kids, we didn't see cotton packed in this manner at all. Basically, it was stripped and then it went into
a trailer.
Yeah. Had chicken wire on the sides of it, hold it all in, and then it would be hauled out to the cotton gin. And many times there would be hundreds of those trailers sitting out there waiting to be processed. Now, how much would one of those trailers hold?
Oh, I can remember they would hold probably equivalent of what is in one of these round bales. One trailer would.
Yeah. I see.
And so the slightly older machines that have where they put them into modules, roughly 4 of these round bales would be equal to one module, where the guys are still using the basket strippers and dumping it and packing them into modules. And so when we stack these, we'll stage them 4 together, where they can pick them up either with a regular module truck that hauls the other modules, or they can bring out a front end loader and load them on a flatbed semi and haul them to the gym. And but when they do that, they'll haul 8 of them at a time that way, or if they bring a module truck, they can haul 4 of them at a time.
Well, that's a fuel saver right there compared to.
Well, and some guys are hauling more than that, and what that has allowed is for them to transport them farther. I mean, there's places where they can haul those modules, these round modules, a couple 100 miles to the gym. You know, you would have never considered doing that the old way.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And so that's what's enabled the cotton industry the cotton region to move further north, like up into Kansas, because they can haul it further to ginning.
I see. Now, how do gins normally operate? Seems like that way back when I was a kid, you pretty much did business with a co-op.
There's still co-ops around, or there's independent ginners.
Now, the gins stipulate as to what form they will take their cotton in?
No, nowadays they're all equipped to either handle them like this or handle the modules. There are no trailers anymore.
Right.
And so it's either one or the other, and they're equipped to handle it either way.
Okay. I thought maybe some of them were set up to handle only modules of certain size, because you see modules of different sizes as well.
Well, my neighbor up the road, he's got what they call a modulating bull buggy, where the stripper dumps into that machine, and then it'll press it and pack it going through the field, and then you dump it off on the end, and basically it makes half of one of those other modules, so you can stack 2 of them together, and then you have the equivalent of one module, but it cuts out one piece of equipment and one man to run it.
Right, wow.
And he likes it. He gets along with it pretty well.
Huh.
But that's an expensive piece of equipment. I mean, that thing's it's over $100,000 plus a tractor to put on, to run it.
Right.
So still tell you, and it takes a man to run the thing that has to be pretty savvy in order to operate it,
Right. So you've got quite a bit of electronic stuff on this machine. Do you does it have like self-diagnostics capability? Like on our automobiles, trucks, we have to stick something inside our diagnostics board to read error codes, that type of thing.
This does. It has a message center. You go there, and it'll say no messages to display. But if it's got an alarm system, it'll flash a yellow triangle or a red stop sign or whatever, and then it'll display the code or whatever. Okay. And then there's a book. I've got the owner's manual. You can access that, and if it gets too technical, then Deere can come out and they can plug in a laptop and run a diagnostic.
So in other words, did you have to buy this separate?
No, this is part of the machine.
Okay. All right. Well,
now the yield mapping is not. That's a separate feature, and it's got a GPS globe for that. but it does not have steering capability. But you can upgrade to that where you can use the GPS to steer it. But gotta pay attention, because if you don't,
Right.
so now we're full, so we gotta pick the bale out. You can't pick a bale out. A bale on the back, so you gotta unload the one on the back.
Oh, okay.
And so then it's got rolls of the plastic sheets that we wrap it in. There's 24, and there's a counter on there that it's got a barcode that runs across a scanner back there on the back, and it tells you how many sheets that you've got left, so you don't run out.
Oh, okay.
And when you get to the last one, it'll throw a code or throw a warning that out of wrap to make sure that you reloaded a new roll. And then it's also got, we put an add-on fire suppression system that in case of a fire, we can hopefully get it extinguished without doing any damage.
Wow.
And that's a local guy that developed that. They're from Kittiquay.
Huh.
And that gives you a pretty big break on your insurance premium to have that system on there.
Interesting. Out that pink bale over there then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we just kicked out one behind us too. So this machine will not really strip a whole lot more capacity than what the old basket strippers do. It's just that we don't stop. So it increases your efficiency by probably 20 to 30%, maybe a little more.
Right.
Because
effectively, we didn't even really slow down.
No, you don't.
It just kept on going. Amazing.
Yeah, we can strip in a good day if the weather's good and if the conditions are dry and everything. You can strip probably 200 to 250 bales per day with one of these machines.
That's incredible.
It's incredible.
That is incredible. Now, you've got to be concerned about moisture.
Yes.
Just like in any other crop with cotton. You don't want your cotton too wet. Will it burn? Kind of like...
It can get hot, and that's the problem with these wraps, is that the older modules, you know, they were open, so they would breathe a little more. These do not, so we do that if the moisture is a concern. This thing has moisture monitored on it, and so that's something that we watch, and it's... that's the average going into the module. That's the current, and we try to keep that under 12%.
Okay, gotcha. Now we've had some foggy mornings here lately.
Right.
Is there a way that you can test for that humidity before actually start up the machine?
You just feel it. You can go out and feel the cotton, feel the burrs, you know, feel if they're tough or if they're brittle, and the seed, if it's hard and dry when you bite into it. Still, it might be a little damp. Just watch, you know, if it's too much, we've had to quit. You know, we've tried it and had to quit. You know, the relative humidity, we use, I've got an app on my phone with West Texas Mesonet, and so they have weather stations all around. I mean, we're never more than probably 10, 15 miles from one of their stations. And so I've got those sites loaded on my app where I have quick access to what the current conditions are.
Okay.
So we typically on our relative humidity on those websites, we try to keep it under 60%.
Gotcha.
So like here, there's Dimmitt, and the RH is 47, Hart's 48, Tuya is 44. So we're in good shape here.
All right. I knew there were quite a bit of weather stations around that were part of the school net.
Yeah,
system.
I use them, but the Mesonet, it's to me it's more accurate and it's instant. The school net, it takes a little bit for their stuff to load.
Right.
And the Mesonet is what the National Weather Service uses.
Okay, gotcha.
It's a collaboration, I think, between the National Weather Service and Texas Tech University.
I see. It's still amazing to me that you rarely have to touch your steering wheel.
Yeah, the only time you really do is you get these blank spots, and so those feelers underneath there don't have anything to grab, and it can throw you off a little bit.
Gotcha.
And then I have to, when we get to the ends, I have to adjust it because we're leaning that way, and then when we get turned around, then we go back the other way, so I have to tweak it a little bit.
Get it lined up.
Get it lined up where it'll follow it.
This was a irrigated field.
Yes.
Pivot irrigation.
Yes.
What about water levels in the Ogallala Aquifer? Where they
We have really dropped off. And they continue to drop off. Where this farm is, I've been farming this place for 20 years, and I would say that my water level here is probably 20-25% of what it was 20 years ago. It's dropped off that much.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is the future looking like? How can you plan for
Well, it's hard.
eventual disaster?
More and more guys are quitting irrigating just because it's not feasible.
Right.
And I mean, there's still a little water here. You know, probably we'll never run completely out of water, but we will run out of irrigation water. Yeah.
Yes. And then two, it gets more expensive.
Yes.
To pump that water.
It is more expensive, and it takes, you know, whereas I could run one pivot with one well when I started farming this place, well now it takes 5 wells to run one pivot. You know, they're smaller pumps, but you have 5 instead of 1, so the probability for problems is 5 times greater.
Right, right. Well, I imagine that has driven the necessity to improve the efficiency of your irrigation.
Well, it has.
As well.
It has. We use LIPA, what they call it's low energy precision application, where these hoses drop down off the sprinklers and we just bubble the water. Basically, it just runs a real low pressure salt stream straight down to the ground instead of spraying it where you don't lose much to evaporation that way.
Right, right.
And then there is some drip irrigation around here too with the subsurface drip tape. I've got a neighbor here and over here where they have some of that. And it puts the water right at the root zone. That's very efficient, but it also, there's some issues with it. You have problems with gophers and animals burrowing into it.
Exactly.
And when if they bury the drip tape too deep and you get a dry year like this year, some guys have trouble with getting the moisture to percolate to the top in order to germinate the seed.
Right, right. I see in Florida where they have, especially with strawberry growing operations, they will have a machine that drives along the field. It will pick up the soil. It will amend the soil with other organic materials in a big old hopper and your fertilizer, mix everything up, and then we'll put it back down on the ground inside of a black sheet of plastic that forms an envelope around a whole row that you're going to grow strawberries on. And then embedded in that is some tubing that have micro emitters every so often.
Yeah, I was afraid of that.
What do we got going on?
Oh, we got in a little bit out a little fast and choked down my cross auger. That means we get to the unpleasant task of digging that sunbucket out.
Okay, well.
And this is where it's not automatic.
Okay. Well, good.